Maybe you know that feeling of having faced a situation or problem or difficulty in your life that felt like a mountain that was insurmountable, but somehow you made it over or through, like me. After decades of having given so much of our lives to others, then we wind up feeling like we don't know who we are anymore. When I was young, when I had children, I was privileged enough to have my kids at home with me, and I was able to stay home raising them, homeschooled, did the whole thing, and I loved every minute of it. And all the while, I knew that it was a privilege to be able to do that, and a lot of people didn't have the the means to be able to be a stay-at-home mom. So I knew all along that that was something that I was lucky to be able to do. I realized that a lot of kids or a lot of people wouldn't even want to, but um, that's neither here nor there. I wanted to. I was lucky enough to be able to. But the problem with that is that when the kids are grown and gone, which is what they're supposed to do, then what? For me, I went through a period of feeling unhappy and felt very invisible. And like I didn't know, like I said, I didn't know who I was, and I didn't really know. I knew I wanted more, but I didn't know exactly what I wanted. Um, and then I found myself suddenly single at 50. And not only was that painful and difficult enough, but as a result of that, I was also $500,000 in debt and had IRS back taxes because my husband had been self-employed, and also a college loan for my daughter's loan fees. I had no idea how to navigate any of that, how I was going to climb out of that hole or survive it. But one day at a time is how you do that. And maybe your mountain looked different than my mountain, but that feeling of, I don't know how I'm going to do this, I know that feeling. And maybe like me, you did it one day at a time. When I look back at that period, I don't know how I managed that. But I did one day at a time, one task at a time, one cleanup task at a time. And eventually, I found myself with the bankruptcy settled. I filed bankruptcy. The estate settled. The IRS was settled. And I felt like I was waking up, or like I'd been underwater and just in survival mode for 3 years, and I was coming up for air. And when I looked around, I could also see that all I had was a car and a job and a rental cabin that I was staying in. But I knew I wanted more. I still felt invisible, but I knew I wanted more now from my life. And I looked around and thought, gosh, I have a clean slate. What do I want to do? And I knew what I wanted to do was to travel. I wanted to be a significant part of my grandchildren's lives. And I didn't even have grandchildren, but I hoped that I would someday. And I knew that I wanted to be a significant part of their lives the same way that my grandmother was so important to me. So what is it that you want for your next chapter? Do you know? I wanted travel. I wanted time freedom. I wanted location independence. I wanted adventures. I wanted to experience more of life. And I decided that the vehicle that would take me to the life I wanted would be an online business. Sounded like easy enough, even though I had no idea how to do that. But I knew there were resources out there where I could learn. So what is it that you want out of life? If money didn't even exist, what is it that you would want to spend your time doing, or to experience, or to leave behind? What kind of legacy would you want to leave behind? Do you know? Well, I decided that an online business was going to be my vehicle to get me what I wanted: time freedom, location independence. I wanted that stability after what I'd been through. I knew that financials, I didn't want to have to worry about it. I knew that financial stability was super important to me. So I joined a community that was all about learning how to do an online business. This was a long time ago when it was still kind of new to be in that space. And as part of this community, I went on a retreat to Bali, Indonesia, which was amazing and wonderful. But during that retreat, people were talking about marketing and branding and telling their personal stories in the group so that we could uh, troubleshoot and brainstorm around branding and around personal stories. And I remember thinking that I don't really have that. I don't have an amazing story to tell of the guy that survived Afghanistan under gunfire and left the country with his dad on his back and crossed the border. Like, people had some amazing survival stories and uh, backgrounds that was the anchor for why they wanted this online business and why they wanted to build a brand. I had a pretty low-key life. I had my difficulties and my struggles for sure, but I didn't have a story like that. So I was complaining about this, that I don't really, I've been a mom for 20 years. I don't have this amazing story and all this experience and expertise. And he looked at me and he said, but that is your story. That is your story. And I remember thinking, that's not helpful. I didn't get it. But after letting that tumble around in my subconscious for years now, I'm finally leaning in. I'm leaning into that is my story. And truthfully, I have overcome some difficult things in my life, like the mountain I just told you about. But I think we tend to minimize our own experiences as uneventful or not helpful to anyone else. And I don't want to feel invisible anymore. That's my decision, that I am going to move forward and take proactive steps to not be invisible anymore, to not feel that way. I don't think I am invisible. I don't think anybody is as invisible as we feel. However, the feeling persists, right? And so anyway, I want to lean into my story and to use that as my foundation for what I want to build. And my experiences in that community and all of the other personal growth and developmental things that I have invested in myself around has been so meaningful and impactful in my life that I want to share that with other people now. So that's why I'm here. And I'm Jelana, and if this is your first time here, welcome to this channel, and I'm really glad that you found it. And if you're returning, then welcome back. I'm so glad that you're here also. And please join me next week. Consider subscribing so that you don't miss it when I am going to share next week about what I did next with the online business and what I plan to do now.